right? The Lions change up their offense. That was the closest it looked like to being Ben Johnson, old Detroit Lions offense that it's looked all year. And it makes their, you're saying it right. It makes their team different when Jameson Williams involved. They're scary as hell. They're scary as hell to begin with.
And here's the thing about Detroit. Between their talent, Brad Holmes upstairs, a great GM. Between that talent and Dan Campbell, they are a monster at home. They should organizationally request a Super Bowl there, cross their fingers they get in.
For decades, the Detroit Lions were the team that always had heart, but never had hope. But those days are over. A rebuild built on grit, patience, and perfect timing has created something terrifying. Smart coaching, draft picks that hit, free agents that mattered. Year after year, this team climbed out of the ashes, from laughingstock to contender to something even more dangerous. And yet, after 2 heartbreaking playoff exits and the loss of both coordinators, the narrative was familiar. Here come these same old Lions. Except, these aren't the same old Lions, because in 2025, Dan Campbell's team isn't fading, it's evolving. They're tougher, smarter, deeper. Every loss feels like a setup. Every game feels like a warning. This isn't a Cinderella story anymore. It's a warning shot. This is exactly why the NFL should fear the 2025 Detroit Lions. If you were expecting a Detroit Lions decline, then I'm sorry to disappoint. They're tough, talented, and clearly haven't missed a beat over the 2025 offseason, which is seriously impressive all things considered. The Lions' 2024 season ended with a shootout loss to the surprise of the season, the Washington Commanders, in a thrilling game. It was the second year that the Lions had high hopes going into the playoffs and came away with nothing. Heading into those playoffs, it was common knowledge that the Lions' offensive and defensive coordinators were going to be in demand for head coaching roles in the offseason, which ultimately led to them departing, with Aaron Glenn going to New York and Ben Johnson sticking in the division to take over the Chicago Bears. Having this much turnover can have a detrimental effect on any team, but it can be particularly worrying for a playoff team as it risks changing the fundamentals that made them such a success. The alarm bells were likely ringing for Lions fans, because there is a precedent for this kind of brain drain. That would be the 2023 Philadelphia Eagles, who lost offensive coordinator Shane Steichen and defensive coordinator Jonathan Gannon after reaching the Super Bowl in 2022. They then struggled mightily in 2023. Both new coordinators were fired after 1 year, and head coach Nick Sirianni was on the hot seat. In 2025, it was Dan Campbell's turn to be put in this difficult position after losing his top 2 guys. And the early signs were not good. The loss to Green Bay in Week 1 showed a completely different team to the one we saw in 2024, seemingly confirming the popular offseason narrative that this was a team that would regress significantly. But they bounced back with a thumping of the Chicago Bears in Week 2 and followed that up with a statement win against the Baltimore Ravens in Week 3. Despite that Week 1 setback, they proved that their team culture is still strong, and the team is pretty good too. But what has remained constant is, of course, head coach Dan Campbell, who has been the heart and soul of the transformation of the Lions franchise and whose motivational coaching approach and aggressive play style have become tenets of Detroit's game. Despite some key losses, Campbell has continued to keep the team culture alive and find a way to adapt to the coaching changes. And so far, it all seems to be paying off. Another element that has stayed the same is the team itself, as the Lions retain their most crucial players, which has undoubtedly made the transition easier. They still have one of the most creative and dynamic offenses in football, and on the other side of the ball, while still light in their passing defense, has plenty of star power to win them games. The defense was decimated by injury last year, and looks a lot better already. But what makes the team so good is what they can do on the offensive side of the ball. They have the best running back duo in the league, and a passing game that can hurt you in so many different ways. They have such a wide variety of ways they can attack you that it's impossible to defend against, allowing the Lions to dictate games through a balanced offense and alleviate pressure off the defense. This versatility was on full display in their Week 3 matchup with the Ravens, where the Lions amassed 202 passing yards and 224 rushing yards, including 2 touchdown drives of over 90 yards. The heart of the offense is the dual rushing threat of Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. also known as Sonic and Knuckles. The two of them bring versatility and complementary skill sets while both being in the upper echelon of the position. Gibbs is the flashier of the two, using his speed and agility to make defenders miss while being effective in the passing game, with big play potential every time he touches the ball, as he proved in Week 7 of the 2025 season when totaling over 218 yards from scrimmage. Montgomery, meanwhile, is more understated and excels between the tackles as a power runner, using his strength and size to break tackles and get into second gear when he gets in the open field. But just because he's the power back, don't underestimate how shifty he can be. Montgomery is also respectable in the passing attack and can be considered a goal line specialist, punching in his fair share of touchdowns. The versatility that this combination brings to Detroit is why the offense is so effective. It's not just what they bring with their rushing and touchdowns, but the fact that their play opens up opportunities for the passing attack, allowing Detroit to utilize play action to get players open down the field. Since joining the Lions in 2023, Gibbs and Montgomery have propelled Detroit to being one of the premier rushing offenses in football, ranking third in rushing yards amongst NFL teams. They've also combined for the joint most rushing touchdowns by a single team. They really are the perfect combination of explosiveness and clinical finishing ability. Along with the fearsome rushing offense, the Lions are led by quarterback Jared Goff, who has managed to reinvent himself and his reputation since arriving in the blockbuster Matthew Stafford trade. When that trade happened, many were saying that the Rams were the big winners, and that initially seemed to be true when LA won Super Bowl 56. But Goff has proven himself as a perfect fit for the Lions offense, and the narrative surrounding the trade has begun to change. Goff's career has had its ups and downs, and despite some solid years under Sean McVay in Los Angeles, by the end of his time there were question marks about his status as a starting quarterback. Things got off to a slow start in Detroit, but since then, he has consistently been one of the best quarterbacks in this league. He's never been the flashiest QB, but Goff can manage games and limit his mistakes while also capable of making accurate throws under pressure. His football IQ, toughness, leadership, and calmness under pressure are the traits that allow him to excel in the Lions' run-first offense. He's also shown improvement throughout his career, particularly when it comes to accuracy, and in 2024 had the second highest pass completion rate at 72.4%. While some may question whether a quarterback who is more of a game changer, like a Mahomes, Jackson, or Allen, would help Detroit get over the hump in the playoffs, Goff has shown that he is a perfect fit in this system. It is also a credit to Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell that they were willing to put such faith in a quarterback who everyone else had written off, only to watch him turn into a top 10 guy. Supporting Goff is the Lions receiving core, which has also developed into a serious unit despite the offense being designed around the run game. They are led by All-Pro Amon-Ra St. a versatile receiver who has a rare combination of speed and strength, along with very good hands that make him a nightmare for opposing corners to deal with. He hit the ground running as soon as he was drafted in the 4th round in 2021 and has only gotten better with each passing year, developing into one of the truly elite receivers in the league. St. Brown is one of the best separators in the NFL, and despite being primarily a slot player, has racked up comfortably over 1,000 yards in each of the last 3 seasons after notching 912 as a rookie. He's well on track for another big year in 2025. When you look at St. Brown's body of work and the consistency with which he has done it, there is certainly an argument that he is the best receiver in the league at the moment. Opposite St. Brown is Jameson Williams, who is a more recent revelation in this Lions offense, having had his breakout year in 2024. Williams was a highly touted prospect coming out of Alabama, but dealt with injury and disciplinary issues in his first 2 years in the league. But once he got the chance to play a full season of football, he took his opportunity, becoming one of the most effective weapons in Goff's arsenal. He is a speedy receiver who brings a deep threat and can also contribute in the short game, and then use his agility in the open field. He is the perfect complement to the all-round threat of St. Brown, adding to the number of ways the Lions can hurt you. Williams was excellent in 2024, putting up a stat line of 1,001 receiving yards with 7 touchdowns and a yards per catch of 17.3, displaying his deep threat. The Lions rewarded Williams with a 3-year contract worth $83 million, making him an integral part of this team for the next few years. The newest addition to the receiving core is 2025 third-round pick Isaac Tesla. Tesla finds himself down the depth chart, but has already made waves with his ability to make spectacular catches, as he looks like a player who will turn into a major part of this Lions offense with some more experience. He's a size and speed freak who could well develop into a legit game changer. Jared Goff already had an embarrassment of riches, but to add this guy in as well is just unfair. Simply put, the Lions have one of the most dynamic and varied offenses in the NFL. There are just so many ways that they can get yards and touchdowns that even if you manage to shut down the passing or running game, they can hurt you with the other. They still are the best offense in the league, with or without Ben Johnson. While the offense may get all the attention in Detroit, they do have a very good unit on the other side of the field, featuring superstars and key role players who have made them a hard team to play against. The heart of this defense is the pass rush, and that starts with their superstar edge rusher, Aiden Hutchinson. Hutchinson returned in 2025 following a brutal injury in 2024, and began the season looking like a Defensive Player of the Year contender with 6 sacks in 7 games. But it isn't just Hutchinson getting after the quarterback. Al-Quadin Muhammad has also been getting pressure consistently, as have linebackers Jack Campbell and Derek Barnes. The pass rush is key to the Lions' defensive scheme, as the pressure created provides opportunities for takeaways and allows their pass defense to properly set up. There have been questions in the past few years about the secondary, and the Lions wasted no time in addressing those needs in free agency, signing cornerback DJ Reed to a 3-year deal. They also have one of the best safety duos in the league in the form of Kirby Joseph and Brian Branch, who've developed nicely since being drafted and are now leaders of this defensive unit. Despite being battered by injuries once again in 2025, this Lions defense looks like a very strong unit, with Kelvin Shepherd making an immediate impact as a potential upgrade over Aaron Glenn. Despite losing 2 elite coordinators, it seems not much has changed in Detroit. And with another year of development and some off-season moves, could they be even better than before? The run game is the best in the NFL, and their passing attack probably has the most variety in the league. Put those two together and add in a very good defense, and you'd be crazy not to call this team a Super Bowl contender. Will this be the year that the Lions make it over the hump in the playoffs and bring a Lombardi trophy to Detroit? Let us know in the comments below.